Welcome to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast, episode 15.
Hey everyone, today my guest is Mike Norton. Despite being a Memphis boy at heart, Mike has become a fixture in not only the comics industry, but the Chicago comics community as well. And I don't think you can find a single person who doesn't know Mike in some way, and mostly it's positive. Mike's had a pretty storied career drawing books for Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, and including his own creator-owned projects, BATTLEPUG, Revival, and the currently released GRUMBLE. Mike's also co-hosted a podcast for the past 15-ish years called The Crankcast, which is co-hosted by our former guest, Chris Crank. Mike's also been getting back into playing guitar, and I'm really glad I had the opportunity to sit and chat with him about podcasting, digital art, music, and playing guitar. Apologies for the lesser audio for the first few minutes. I wish I could explain what happened to the better audio for that section, but I have yet to find out. The joys of podcasting. Anyway, let's get to it. The man, the myth, the pugmaster, Mike Norton.
So, Mike, I've kind of known you for quite a while. It seems now. I was kind of like doing the math, and I think we first met. I think it was the Watchmen movie screening that Challengers hosted, which
Really?
was like, yeah, it was like at a movie co.
Yeah,
When the
that was a long time ago.
that was a super. But it was very much just like oh, hi, Patrick's just
I
introduces everybody.
remember that very well because one, I think we all ate before at
Yeah.
the restaurant there, and I always hate that because it makes me real nervous. And my wife Julie, we weren't married yet, but my wife Julie and I were there, and that was the time. That was the movie where we decided we were never going to do a midnight movie again because we
Understandable.
saw Watchmen, which is like 3 hours long at midnight.
Yeah, that was a mistake, and it's certainly not something I'd be doing anytime soon myself. But, and just not to start anything, and a couple of the facts, this wasn't a very good movie.
It was all right. The problem with it is that it's so slavish. It doesn't try
Yeah,
to do it. It's not like the TV show. It doesn't try to do anything different. And so it just became, I find Snyder to be sort of like uh, Tarantino-ish in a way. He tries to emulate everything that he likes rather than come up with something different. I think Tarantino's a little more successful about that, but I'm not. I'm unusual in that I'm not a huge Tarantino fan. So
well, I wouldn't call myself a huge Tarantino fan, but I think his high points are definitely like leaps and bounds ahead of Snyder's high
oh,
points
absolutely,
when
absolutely.
it comes to that,
When
because
he
there's
tries to
definitely
do something, I mean, at his very worst, he's copying some obscure thing that you've never seen, so it seems really cool. At his best, he's using it as a springboard, and I mean, he's still a very talented writer, even though he writes too many very long dialogue scenes, and he's
yeah
very into hearing himself talk. But I think he's way more talented.
yeah.
But I don't
So
know. I'm a movie. What the fuck do I know? Oh, hey, can we curse?
oh, swear away, my friend, swear
Oh,
away.
okay, okay.
If you catch me, preventing myself from swearing, it's just because I'm trying not to swear so much in general. Uh, but no, swear away. This isn't tagged me or anything like that. So don't worry about that.
Okay.
So I met you, this whole, long time ago or whatever. But I'm sure you probably don't remember because it's probably mostly in my head. But it felt like for like the longest time, like whenever I would try to talk to you, I would just get like really like anxious and nervous and like just kind of clam up,
I think
even
you
though,
told me that before, though. I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and well, because I was kind of thinking about it, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Because you've been nothing but just nice and welcoming and things like that, and I think it's because I had at that point listened to so much of the Cranecast.
Well, that's
It,
unfortunate that that's the reason why you were
Well,
nervous about it.
when I had a full-time day job for a long time, I was in a position to where basically I could just have my headphones on for like majority of my day. So once I discovered podcasts between
Yeah,
Cranecast and Word Balloon and
sure.
around comics and all that, I just kind of like just there were plenty of days where it was just 7 hours of Cranecast
I
catching up.
understand. I can understand feeling like intimidated about people that you look up to, but like listening to people on podcasts, I don't feel intimidated. It's kind of like the opposite. I want to go hang out with those people. I might be nervous. I am nervous to talk to people at first anyway. I think a lot of people, actually, Jim Terry and Ryan Brown both have similar stories they told me where they didn't want to talk to me for months because they thought I looked mean. Like I was going to like I was just going to be mean to them. And I do look scary. I understand that, but um yeah, that uh, I I get intimidated by. I mean, I there are comic book people that I still get nervous talking to. I got real nervous talking to Erica Henderson at C2E2 because I was just like, well, she's too cool to talk to me, you know. But,
Yeah, I think while I definitely am, I can certainly say like the intimidation of like you're an artist I look up to and respect and all that. I think a lot of it was also kind of I had through the podcast learned so much about you
yeah,
and
that's the
like
thing I don't understand.
like your
Why?
personal thing. And I guess for me it was just kind of this barrier of like, oh, I don't want to like say something that like presupposes some sort of like friendly relationship because I know like all these details about you and you
Sure,
didn't really know anything about me. And I think
sure,
once I got more comfortable kind of just like dealing with general anxiety and all that, but also, was able to like talk to you more and share more my life and who I am with you and all that, it was you know, much easier to just kind of walk up and talk to you and say hello and stuff like that. And yeah, so I'm just kind of wondering if that like have you like faced a lot of kind of stuff like that with this having so much of your life out there with the Crankcast? Because I know you guys like
mm,
don't look at how many people listen,
no.
but there's at least I want to say there's at least 6 of us who listen every week.
Yeah, there's a couple. I know there's like a handful, but it doesn't bother me. Yeah, I haven't had a whole lot of situations where there've been a lot of people that have like been too familiar. Um, so no, it bothers Julie. It bothers my wife. She doesn't like it when anybody is like acts like they know them and she's never met them. That really bugs her. And but she understands that it's sort of part of my job, so she doesn't get bent out of shape about it. Um, for instance, I started posting these quotes that she says, and people used to come up to the table and say, "I love your quotes," and that really started bugging her. So, uh, and it's not like she's scared or anything. She just doesn't like people who think they're familiar. And I it doesn't bother me so much. I've met people in real life like who don't listen to the show and who I've never met, and then like upon first meeting you, like are quick to throw out the kind of like, "Hey, we've been friends for years. I'm gonna jab at you," kind of thing, where they throw out a quick insult or something. I don't like that. I don't care for that.
Yeah.
That usually tells me that I'm like, okay, you're not a somebody I'm gonna dig on. But I don't. I people being friendly. I don't really. That's a good thing. I feel like it's something I'm not very good at. So good on you. You know, good on you for taking that step. You're better than I am.
Well, it was a long thing because I think I was very fortunate in like one of the first creators I ever like got up the nerve to talk to was like Steve Bryant. It was like,
Oh,
you know, like the like warmest and nicest person you could possibly
Steve
meet.
Bryant. Steve Bryant's like when you get scared of a spider in your house and somebody says, "Oh, don't worry, they're more scared of you than you are of them."
Yeah.
That's describing Steve Bryant. It's like, don't be scared of him. He's terrified of you.
Yeah, that kind of like warmed me up quite a bit to like, okay, I can like kind of just go and talk to people and and things like that. And I guess
Yeah, Steve's a good person to meet for the first time. That's
yeah,
great.
if you're at a show and you're like nervous about talking, just find wherever Steve Bryant is and just talk to him, because
he'll be so happy.
He's the easiest person
to
just to say hi to and chat with real
He'll just
quick,
be
and then
glad
just
to
kind of
talk
warm
to
up
you.
with.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm always nervous to talk to people, and especially at comic shows, and I'll always just like, somebody will go talk to that person. I'm like, nah, they don't want to talk to me, so I don't. I've regretted it a couple of times.
Yeah, ditto.
Like I was in the back of a cab with Will Eisner once, and I was too afraid to talk to him, and so I never got to do that. So that's a regret of my life.
Oh.
But that was neat. I can tell people I was in the back of a cab with Will Eisner.
Yeah, that's a good story.
Yeah. It's not really that great a story.
So on top of having known you this, I guess probably 10 years now. There's not that we're these great friends or buddies or whatever, but we've known each other, and
Sure.
I've kind of like seen your I guess your switch from moving from traditional art to digital art. And
yeah, I guess it's been about that long.
And I've kind of like really followed, because I've kind of really respected how you've like just went for it. And you've said before, you kind of like forced yourself to do, like, I got to do this one gig all digital just so I do it and get it over with. But you've really kind of I remember you drawing the curse and the 24-hour comic book day on that modified mod book.
Yeah.
Before
I still have that thing.
Before any type of like portable drawing solution was really viable or anything like that.
Yeah.
And you've primarily used Wacom products, right?
Yeah, I still do. I mean, the iPad is kind of hard to beat, but I still feel more comfortable. Like right now, I'm working on my Cintiq.
Okay.
I feel more comfortable with it.
Yeah, cause that was going to be my next question. Is like, is there a certain device you've like felt the most comfortable with?
Yeah, I still can't. Everybody's moved to the iPad, and it still is just something about it is weird to me. I've done several things with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like that I can be on the couch and stuff, but the Cintiq is so big, and I can, I maybe I'm just getting old and I can see everything, but I am so used to it. But it's, like you mentioned with the first time I worked on it, maybe all I need to do is just sit down for a week and just make myself draw a whole comic with it or something, like, other people have, and maybe I'll never look back. I know a lot of people that are, swearing by it that way. So,
well, I'm certainly taking a cue from you in that, because I recently got the iPad Pro.
I saw
about a week and a half ago, and I've been putting out for a lower page rate. Like, here, I'll do some short stories with you, some independent people, and the caveat is that I'm doing it digitally on my iPad because I want to learn how to do this, and the other things I'm working on for myself, I'm doing traditionally still. So I can say, like, for like the first, I guess, week now that I've had it, like I really love it. That said, I haven't really used a Wacom tablet in like, or a screen, like primarily. I had a Huion, or I have a Huion one, which is like a budget version, and it's perfectly fine. It's certainly suited me. I've done work on it. It's not as refined as some of the Cintiq stuff that I've had a chance to try. And I also had a Samsung tablet that had a Wacom digitizer. So the screen was really nice, but the pen was this tiny thin thing, and it was an Android tablet. So like 2 years after I bought it, it was already like out of date, and I had to like hack into it just to update it so I could use some of the apps. And so finally I'm like, well, I really, I finally have this like office to work in. But now that I'm going here in this office, I'm like, I kind of miss just like being around my family while I'm working at night.
Sure.
So So after talking to my wife, she's like, just go for it. So it's been real fun, just kind of like just sitting and while my wife watches like, whatever trash TV she's
Sure.
deciding to shut her brain off with,
I
and I
am
can just hang
totally
out.
familiar. Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely like it. Definitely more for penciling too. I got the little the paper like
Uh-huh.
the
Yeah, you gotta
brand
have
paper
that.
like screen thing. That
That's
really
sort of necessity. That's
that
sort of a
really that
necessity.
really sealed it for me, where I'm like, okay, this really feels like it. Now I'm just trying to figure out like the workflow and the technical stuff, because
I am too.
everyone's like, oh, Procreate. I'm like, okay. So I
Right.
go and I buy Procreate. I'm like, like this is fine. Like if I was just gonna open up and sketch a commission or something like that, that's fine. Procreate's perfect for that. And I'm sure I know it's got a lot more powerful tools and things like that, but I decided just to go and get the Clip Studio and pay
Yep.
for that again, because I'm like, oh, I can just import all my brushes I already bought.
That's that, you work with what you're more comfortable with. I'm
Yeah.
more comfortable with Clip Studio. I see a lot of people, praising the Procreate thing, and I see Clayton Henry. I see him on Instagram, and he posts these beautiful things. He does it all in Procreate. Jason Alexander's working
Mhm.
all in Procreate. It looks amazing, but I've played with it, and I find it to be so easy. It's hard. Like the features are hidden in a way,
Yeah, it
under like
definitely.
this fake like UI of easiness. It's more difficult because I can't see everything. I don't know where everything is. And Clip Studio, everything's there.
Yeah, and
It looks like Photoshop.
I
So
was really surprised in how like just similar the interfaces were, with the
yeah,
exception of a couple icons looking a little different.
yeah.
Like how easy it was for me, just like, oh, okay, here, I can just do, make my panels, do this, do that.
Well,
And
that's the reason I started when I picked up, it was Manga Studio then. Um that's why when I picked it up, I was like, well, I'm never using anything else but this. Because I immediately know how. I've never understood a program that somebody didn't teach to me,
yeah,
but I was able to learn this in a week by myself. So I was just like, why would I try anything? You know?
yeah. I had Manga Studio, went back when it was Manga Studio, and then when it automatically upgraded to and changed to Clip.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people didn't like the newer interface. That's
I
kind of
did.
been
I
for a
was
couple
hard
years.
for me to get used to it. I was so dependent on like some of the correction
Hmm.
stuff in the brush engines. Um, that I kinda weaned myself off of when, it turned into Manga Studio 5,
Yeah,
and now that it's Clip Studio, I think they brought some of that back, but I don't know. I like it more than I like Procreate, but I've seen people do amazing things in Procreate. I just drew something with Procreate tonight because I do like that it records your drawing sessions,
yeah. That's
and
what I hear. A lot of people like using it for the time lapse stuff, and
yeah, and the 4-star guys, we've been doing these, warm-ups,
yes, those are awesome.
the videos, and now that we're all homebound, we're using Procreate to make these little mini episodes, and, so I've done a couple of those. I don't they're not out yet. I think, Sean still has to edit them, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's, I drew it on a broken iPad. I sat on my iPad last night, so
Oh no.
I crushed it. It's all splintered in glass. Every time I pick it up, I get a sliver of glass in my finger, and I still drew on it tonight anyway. I drew a
Uh,
picture of Kevin Matchstick, one of my favorite
oh, nice.
characters.
Yeah, Mage was one of those things that was a blind spot for me for a long while, and I think Comixology had a sale a couple of years ago, and I just kind of dove right into that, and I'm like,
Oh, great, great. Yeah, man.
yeah, I have to get into the newer stuff. I think I just read the original '80s stuff.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
You know,
I was there the first time around when it came out. Like I was in junior high school, and I had the first T-shirt. Like the black and white T-shirt that
yeah.
they've been putting out consistently since the new series has come out, but they put out one that you had to order out of the back of the comic book.
Oh,
and it on the back it actually had the title on it. Like the new ones don't have the title on it, and I wore it out, like wore it out to the where you couldn't see the lightning bolt in it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a really great series. I was glad I was able to check it out. And I'm glad you guys are doing the warm-ups at least remotely, because I really enjoyed those when you guys were doing
Well,
them.
I mean, it was a great Sean Dove and Josh Emmons are great at coming up with ideas. Our problem is that usually we're so busy that it's hard to stay consistent with doing things right. I feel like if we had done it and like kept doing it with some kind of consistency, we could have like made it into something, maybe even, monetize. We've got a job.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. Kind of hard to do.
Well, I noticed a lot of creators are really like during this time, like pivoting to like YouTube and Twitch and things like that. And
yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And it's also like, I don't have enough time to watch all
No,
this
it is. It's like I get these notifications like, Robert Wilson started a live video. Daniel Warren Johnson just dropped a new YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to watch these guys work and do their thing, but it's like I don't have time.
I know, same here.
It's like it's a really great time for fans. That's for sure.
It really is. If you're bored at home, I don't know why you're bored at home, because you have a lot to look at.
So yeah, I and just noticing this, like these people pivoting to like the Patreon, and even a few bigger creators are going to Patreon now, and I have a Patreon, but mine's more of just something I have to make sure I finish a thing.
Well, whatever works.
Yeah, my life is as such that if left to my own devices, I'll just put everything else in my life before whatever I have to get done, and then things take forever. So forcing myself to have a deadline is mainly what that's about. But it's just really cool kind of seeing these creators kind of like not necessarily create like it's not a similar thing to like the way the guys broke off and formed Image, but it's kind of like everyone's just kind of like staking their little ground, like, well, we're going to keep making things and building up our audiences and doing things like that. I think you guys, I think once things return to relative normalcy, like I hope you guys can get back to doing the warm-ups regularly, because that was really fun. And I think if you guys can figure out, a consistency to it, I think it would really become something big, because there's a lot of art channels on YouTube, and not to poo-poo on anybody, but a lot of them are like, that's what they do. They're comic artists, but they just do YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I always like seeing videos by comic artists who make comics, as, and, those people, whatever, they're making their money. They don't give a shit what I have to say, but it's, I think there's still like a void there of like actual professionals in the business doing their thing and having, this kind of access, sort of like what Daniel Warren Johnson's doing, kind of like going through his sketchbooks on YouTube. Like he's really like taken that audience and just kind of like cultivated it into like this cool little thing here. So I can definitely see that for 4-star though, for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We're kind of lazy.
But and I noticed there's a lot of artists, kind of clamoring for work. Understandably, a lot of things are, being told like, cease work, things like that. But you've always seemed to be busy like all the time.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I know you've mentioned in the Crankcast that, you've been doing like, I guess, would you consider like doing the comic for that toy line like commercial work, or is it just all comic work?
I mean, it's a comic book. And it's through Dark Horse.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's still a comic book. And there was a time earlier in my career where I would have been, I guess, snobby about it, where it's like, well, this isn't, well, say for instance, like I used to draw Marvel Adventures Spider-Man, but there are people that would come up to my table and say, well, you didn't really draw Spider-Man. You know, like you didn't draw Amazing Spider-Man, you drew Marvel Adventures Spider-Man. I was like, I drew Spider-Man. I have some pages with Spider-Man I drew for Marvel Comics, and they paid me.
Yeah,
You
that
didn't do
counts.
that.
That
You know,
counts.
it's like I think that at a time that probably would have got under my skin, but like now I'm just like, I don't care. I drew Spider-Man and somebody gave me money for it. That's like
And that somebody was
Mike's
Marvel
dream.
Comics.
Yeah, it's like I have checks with Spider-Man on them. It's like that's the dream. Why would I think that I'm better than that? Like this isn't good enough for me? That's crazy. So yeah, I take what I can get. And yeah, right now I have a couple of projects. Uh, I'm lucky in that, you know, I've had some things that haven't been, you know, slowed down. Some things have been, you know, it's everybody's slowed down. I'm actually kind of worried about where things are going to be in a couple months as far as that's concerned, but I'm never worried about me having something to do because from day one, it was, this where I am right now is where I was going to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would have been having a day job and being here at my table at night working on, you know, on comics. So it's 6.5 dozen the other. The money's nice. Being able to make a living is nice, but it's
it's not the barrier for you to make comics.
It's not the. I mean, and a lot of people. I know a lot of people. Like you know, I have some good friends, not so good friends, who came up with me. Who that priority sort of changed, where it's like now we were all like, well, this is what we were going to do anyway. Can't do anything else. And now they're like, well, this doesn't pay anymore. Guess I gotta figure something else out. And I'm like, okay, well, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hate on that. Or there's other people that, you know, lament that they can't get paid draw comics anymore. I was like, well, that does suck. It really does suck. I would hate that too. I hate it now, but, you know, I know what my situation is, and you got to do what you got to do. So
yeah,
that's just the way the world works.
Something I have noticed though, like again, having followed your career for this amount of time, you know, you've always juggled 2-3 projects, it seems like, at a time. But now it kind of seems like the majority of your projects are career-owned things, which I think is amazing. And as you know, I don't want to bring up a depressing thing, but you know, unfortunately, you know, BattlePug, the monthly series, stopped, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to whenever that form it takes next, because it's one of my all-time favorite comics, period.
Oh, that's real nice of you to say.
Well,
I don't hear a lot of people say that actually.
The series, it actually it coincided with like a kind of crappy period I was going through, and just like having that, you know, that every Monday, I believe it was coming. It was just, you know, I was a real bad position at my previous job for a while, and that was kind of like a bright spot. So I had a lot of like nice attachment to, you know, new battle pugs at least, and things like that.
I didn't know that. Well, thanks so much, dude.
And of course I have a demo of a battle pug theme song that I never got to finish.
Yes, yeah.
That I need to finish.
That's fine.
I'm
certainly not going to do one, so you have that all yourself.
Well, I keep trying to wrangle Crank into things, but
well, I'm surprised he hasn't taken you up on it. He loves making.
I'm sure he would if I actually like said, here's something. Can you add something to this? I'm sure he'd be like, yep, here we go. Like,
yeah,
but
Crank loves doing it.
Yeah.
He's been trying to get me back into it.
Well,
actually. He wants me to revisit our side project, High Pressure Gardening. we have a I wouldn't call it a band, I'd call it a project called High Pressure Gardening that we started way back in the Crankcast.
Well, leading to that, you've recently kind of had a resurgence, relearning guitar, and kind of delving a bit more into that. Which I'm a huge fan of you doing, because whenever I find someone's like, oh yeah, I played, or I don't really play anymore, or whatever, I kind of feel a little sad, because I'm like, I know the joy I get out of playing, so I kind of like want that for other people as well. And
well, I lost that joy, which is like why I stopped playing. I mean, it wasn't like I didn't have time, which I kind of didn't, but I mean, I would have found it if I liked playing stuff.
Yeah.
It's just that playing music for me actively made me unhappy. And I've never been able to really figure out why. I think it had something to do with being like competitive and not being able to express myself the way I can drawing, even though I know it's all about, spending all those years learning how to draw, where I didn't do that with guitar. Like I spent a couple of years instead of a couple of decades. And so it's more of a patience thing, and that's the thing I'm learning now with the second time around, is that it's really teaching me patience, which I'm guessing I had a very big lack of in my life. So it's helping me with that, and I've found it to be fun again. So, I mean, that's the only reason to do anything, right?
Yeah.
So, it's coming at a point where, everything's in doubt as far as where everything's going for. I mean, and I'm saying everything. I mean everything. It's not just my job, it's everything in the world, right?
Yeah.
It's coming at a time where it's like, oh, this is perfect. I have a thing that I don't have to, my world is not connected to this in any way. I've compared it to playing video games. It's like it is a lot like playing a video game, in that you figure out how to do something, you can do it, you're happy you can do it, it makes you happy, and then it gets real hard and you get really angry for a while until you figure out how to get past that, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what learning how to play guitar is. So, I don't have any games at the moment that I want to play, so I'm just going to play guitar.
Yeah, I like you, I had a period where I kind of like hung it up for a while, because I had a band that like ended kind of like in the late 2000s, and I was just I like use it not happy doing it. And I was in a band when I first moved up here. I was playing bass, which for one thing I'd never played bass before, and they are two different things. You can play bass if you played guitar, but it's not the same, and I didn't feel confident or have fun doing it. And I just kind of grew to resent one of the guys in the band. And we played a lot of places in Chicago. We played at the Abbey and Elbow Room and Beat Kitchen. We played out, but I just did not like it, so I quit. And I hadn't played since. So like 2004, I hadn't touched a guitar since then. It's quite a long break. Yeah, it's quite a long break, and I kind of had I want to say probably 5-6 years in between really picking up and playing. And for me, that became it. I kind of jumped back into it when I kind of discovered home recording and how kind of easy it is now.
Yeah,
to really do something all on your own.
I think that's kind of what wet my whistle for it too. Not the home recording, but you can ask the guys in the studio. I found myself watching guitar videos. Like that's something that didn't exist before.
Well, just the general quality of gear.
Yeah.
per dollar.
Yeah, and
like it's just astounding these days.
and I was just like, wow,
Yeah.
there anything you want to know, you can find out now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is stuff that wasn't around when I was a kid, and I was sitting there. And I sort of feel the same way about like drawing too. If the tools that were available to me then were the same as now, I'd probably would have, I don't know, become a professional much quicker. I don't know. It's pretty wild, and it's a good time to get into it because it is. I feel like now that I am older, I do have this kind of. I am definitely looking at it from a fresh set of eyes, in that I do know that it's going to take time and it's going to take patience to do things the right way. Whereas when I was a kid, had no time for that. And so I learned everything the worst way. I wasn't the greatest guitar player, but I was the only guitar player in our band. So it was just like, what you got was what you got.
Yeah.
What? We had a bass player who was like a virtuoso, and he was like the genius, and he would always laugh at me about what I was doing, but I didn't care. I was just a dumb dirt head with a mullet. I wanted to rock.
Well, I think that getting back into it, the mindset you have now is really good, and I hope it's something that's bringing you a lot of like just general happiness, getting back into it and learning songs.
It really is. There's a lot of frustration, but I think, like I said, I know that it's gonna be there. I don't have any kind of expectation, so it is a totally different thing than what it used to be.
Well, I think being frustrated is perfectly fine as long as, at the end there's, you feel rewarded or have some sort of rewarding feeling with an accomplishment of something you've done.
I ran into it today. Yesterday I had a crap day. Like I couldn't draw anything right. And I was like, well, I'll play guitar for a while. So I sat down with some of my lessons and stuff, and I was playing. I was like, I can't get any of this. I was trying to learn a new song. It's like, I can't get this down right. What is wrong with me? I have rhythm. I can figure this out. And then I just couldn't. And today I was like, all right, Mike, calm down. I turned on the metronome and I turned it down real low. And I was like, I'm going to make myself learn this, just like with Clip Studio in the beginning, just like everything. It's like, I'm going to make myself learn this. Sat down and I did it. And now I can play it. It's just as simple as that. So I had to get over this like temper tantrum going on in my head. And that's what it's all about. I'm learning. It's that you have to. It's like me versus me every day that I get up, It's like, I got to fight myself today. I'm going to look in the mirror and punch him. Yeah, that's time to get punched, Mike.
As we've been talking about music, I think it's a good time to bring up some of the Twitter questions that I solicited from some of our people. And speaking of Crankcast listeners and comic book artist, Mike Schwartz.
Okay, yeah.
He asked,
Mike.
Does art and music occupy and satisfy the same part of your creative brain, or is there a difference?
I've thought about this, and they do. They satisfy different parts for me. I don't know about you. What about you? What do you think?
Well, for me, they're so like intertwined these days because I compose music now for everything I do.
Oh,
so
see, I haven't made up music, right now. Everything I'm doing is academic. I haven't even thought about making anything. I haven't done any improvising. I haven't done anything. I'm just like learning stuff.
Yeah.
So
well, for me, it kind of started.
That's a totally different brain space that you're talking about.
Yeah, well, it kind of just happened by accident because I was drawing Pax of the Low Country and I had this tune in my head. And I was trying to find it so I can listen to it and get it out of my head. And I couldn't find it. And I realized, oh, this is something I'm writing. So then
You were looking for a song that didn't exist because you were making it up in your
Yeah.
head.
So I'm like, okay. So then I did one, and then another, and then another, and then another. And then it just kind of became this thing. And then most recently with my project Emissary, the song came first. I had written this song.
Really?
Yeah, I had written this instrumental song, and it's gonna be the last one that I release, of course. But I had written this song, and I'm like, I was happy with it. I was just like really, and I just didn't know what to do with it. And I was just like listening to a mix one day of it, and then all of a sudden the story started kind of like peeking through, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And now, I've got, all told at the end it's going to be like I think 6 or 7 songs. I'm doing one a month.
Wow.
So there's that, and I'm also doing like non-comic related music. Yeah, I've been playing bass for 20 years ish, not consistently. I wouldn't consider myself to be a 20-year experienced bass player. I can say with, but time spent owning a bass, yes, 20 years. So that's my primary, that was my primary instrument. And as much guitar as I play, I still consider myself a bass player.
Oh, okay. So you're like Crank.
Yeah, I'm not so much like Crank in terms of like technique, because my main bass influence was Jason Newsted, and he plays bass a lot like a guitar player. Even though he does bass thingies, but like stuff like slap and like tapping and all these kind of things like that. I love listening to it and I love hearing it. It's just never something I really wanted to do. I never wanted to be like that shredder virtuoso bass guy. I like just like laying down a groove and kind of doing that. There's this really great series that's on YouTube from Fuse TV, I think it is, called Metal Head to Head.
Okay.
It's a few years old, but it has like just musicians interviewing each other. And this was Doug Pinnick from King's X interviewing interviewing Dave Ellefson from Megadeth.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
It's a really great interview, and Doug just kind of like describes himself as a guy who kind of like can like play like 3 or 4 notes for like just like, and just kind of like feel the groove and swing. Meanwhile, Ellefson's like, I have to play this stuff to follow Mustaine and Megadeth, and I kind of identified a lot with that. It's a great series, though. I really recommend you go check it out. It's a lot of fun seeing.
What's it called? I'm writing it down.
Metal Head to Head.
Metal Head to Head.
If I can find a link, I'll tweet it at you. Well, I'm sure I'll be able to find a link. But yeah, just search that on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of them. There's like, who is it? A lot of guitar players and all that, and drummers and.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Just kind of hear guys talking about technique and things they do and stuff like that. But yeah, that was really cool. But I do have other stuff I'm working on, like experimenting with vocals and things like that. Kind of having my own EP, but I'm also like kind of reforming an old band with one of my buddies as the bass player, and that's more of a hard rock thing. More Soundgarden influence than, but
so okay, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, please do, because I don't want to keep rambling.
Well, no, I was just like, to get back to Mike's question, how does that fit versus the art? What is that tickling that the other?
I think for me, music, it's all the same, but I think I get a greater reward feeling out of art when it's something I know works, because it feels like it feels harder to do the art than it does the music. Not that either are easy, but it feels incredibly more difficult to like nail a drawing than it does to like nail a song.
That's interesting, because it's the opposite.
So, and I think it's just because it's probably a confidence thing, because I know.
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, it takes a while to get to the point where things don't bother you on a like life damaging
Yeah.
scale from day to day.
Yeah. With art, if I can look at a page or a commission or whatever and be like 80% happy with it, I consider that a win.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's true. That's true.
but with music, also I think with music, it's less. I don't know what's the right way, but it's less committal.
Yes, that's what it is for me.
Because with music, I can, if I'm playing a solo and it's like it sounds a little weird and dissonant, but I wanted it to sound weird and dissonant. It sounds, it comes across as more intentional than, oh, I was trying something different with this piece of art, and instead of it just looking weird
Yes.
and wrong,
Sure.
it as opposed to like, no, I was trying something different there, it just didn't land. Like, I think those things, there's a bit of a gap in between there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I feel like art for me, I think, is more of a definite form of expression, where music right now is more of a fun technical exercise at this point. Well, so Mike should basically ask me this question in like 5 years and see what happens then.
He had a secondary question of like, what do you gain by doing each? I would assume money and patience.
Yeah, basically, yeah. You answered it for me, so there you go.
And then following up with some more music from the previous guest, Benjamin Dewey.
Oh God.
He wants to know, will you be in a band with him?
No.
Okay.
No.
No one needs that pressure, Ben. No one needs that pressure.
I've seen him play. Yeah. I've seen him play. There's no way in hell. It's like when Daniel Johnson came over the studio and I had a guitar there and he goes, "Oh, a guitar." And he picked it up and just started wailing on it. And I was like, "Oh my God, I've never seen anybody do that in person." And I was like, "You need to stop that now." And he was so happy to do it. I like the joy coming off of his face. I was like, that is not what I feel when I pick up that guitar. And this was years ago. And so yeah, I was like, there's no way in hell I'd stand on stage with that person at this point. Again, ask me in 5 years, see where I'm at then.
Ben also had a few more questions. We got, how did you become Lord of the Pugs?
I bought one. There's tons of enthusiastic pug people. I'll point you in their direction.
Milwaukee Pug Fest is proof of that.
It's been canceled.
Oh, that sucks.
Usually on my birthday. They I just decided, nobody else is like making it their thing. I didn't have a thing. That's actually why BattlePug was born, is because I didn't have a thing.
I've actually had people in my town like point when I wear my BattlePug shirt, like, "Oh, I've met that guy," and they went to like PugFest. Like,
oh wow,
because we're not.
Yeah, it's I needed to have a thing, and that's the thing. Before I was kind of not happy that I decided to make it my thing, but I'm like, I'm fine with it. It could be worse thing to have as your thing. Did I say thing enough?
Maybe one or two more times.
Okay, thing ring, do your thing.
He wants to know your thoughts on Chris Samnee.
I love Chris Samnee. I've known Chris Samnee since he's made comics. He's I wish I talked to him more. I think he's one of the sweetest, most genuine, probably, if not the most talented, one of the most talented comic artists I've had the pleasure of knowing and watching him reach that level. Because I saw him when he used to draw a lot like Brian Hurt. He used to just do this kind of like, his artwork almost looked like if somebody took a very high intensity flashbulb photo of a Brian Hurt drawing.
What is that? Chiaroscuro, they call it?
Yeah, chiaroscuro. Yeah.
I remember one C2E2 you showing off. He drew the answer.
Yeah,
he had a sketch, and you were very excited about it.
I have several Chris Samnee pieces. I have an answer. I have a gravity that he did for me a long time ago. And I have obviously I have a BATTLEPUG cover. He's just amazingly sweet, nice, and he couldn't be more talented. It's kind of amazing that I mean, I didn't expect it when I saw him originally. When I first saw him, I remember like editors were having trouble getting colorists to work on him because he left so much up to like the light,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And he he's just he's such an amazing artist. I love Chris.
Yeah, it was really cool just to see like how he's like broke everything down to as
Yeah.
almost abstract as you could go, and just kind of like brought it all back, and now he's just like a modern master.
Yeah, he totally
on
is.
par with like Stuart Immonen, and
there have been artists that I have known since I started where I've met them and seen them and gone, that person is going to be better than all of us. Somni isn't one of those guys. I saw Somni and I was like, well, he draws a lot like Brian. That's pretty cool. And then he just continued to just break like level. He's just like, I'm not happy just doing this. And yeah, it's amazing. I love seeing this stuff. My good friend Jason's one of these guys where, I mean, when I first met him, I wish I had pages that I could put online and embarrass him with, but he used to do these like really hacky ripoffs of Todd McFarlane. And now he's just this amazing expressionistic kind of illustrator that, people are like, you'd put him on the same level as Bill Sienkiewicz almost, and yeah, it's amazing seeing these people turn into these, just it's the kind of artists that we all want to be when we're kids, because these are people that these are the kind of artists that people are going to remember.
Yeah.
So.
He has 2 more questions. Ben was very excited to send some questions, I guess.
Wow, that's crazy because I'm a huge fan of Ben.
Opinion about Schweitzer, at Schweitzer Comics. I think that's Chris Schweitzer.
Oh, Chris Schweitzer?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Chris too. I love Chris a lot. He is so unique and so prolific and amazing. Nobody does what Chris does. And that's amazing.
I love.
And I would love to get some kind of, battle pug thing. I've asked him before, but he's been busy doing things,
Mm-hmm.
so. But he's amazing. I think he's great.
And Ben's last question is friendship with Chris Evans.
Chris Evans?
I don't know what he's referring. I was assuming it was some kind of in-joke between you guys, but I guess he wants to know if you want to have a friendship with Chris Evans.
He seems like a very nice guy from all accounts.
I would say,
unless this is a different Chris Evans that he's talking about.
If he's talking about the actor, yes, I like to be his friend because his dog seems pretty cool. I like to meet that dog.
I haven't seen his dog, but I'm sure I would love to see his dog. I'm pretty much any dog is a friend for me. That's been the hardest part of this quarantine, really, is when I go on walks and I can't go and pet the dogs that I see.
Yeah, my wife and I, we took the kids out for a walk today, and down one of the blocks we were walking, this family had 2 little puppies. And we're just like, oh, we want to go say
hi. The worst. It's the worst. I could care less about the people.
Yeah.
It's the dogs that I don't get.
And more questions from Twitter. We have Joel Mulvey. Is there any...
Oh, he's a good artist, too.
Yeah, Joe's a great guy. I had him on the show a few episodes back, and I got a chance to... Well, I've known Joe for a while. He's an awesome artist and really, really funny guy.
Yeah, he's real good.
He's like, is there any book or character you haven't tackled that you still want to work on?
Oh yeah, tons of them. But I whenever anybody asks me, I can't really think of it. Every character seems interesting to me when offered. I keep saying like Iron Fist. I'd still like to draw Iron
You know what?
Fist. I
That
don't
would be
know.
awesome. I would love to see like or you think,
I don't know.
would you want to do
I
like
don't know
a old
why.
school, like just Kung Fu Iron Fist, or like a Power Man Iron Fist?
I'd love to do Power Man Iron Fist. I tend to like the old costume, but I do like the new one with the tracksuit sort of thing. I do like that. Yeah, I would love to do anything with those guys. I'd like to do more Star Wars.
Well, if there's going to be
That's the
any,
thing
the child comics, and they don't tap you,
Oh yeah.
and they don't
Yeah.
tap you,
Well,
I,
they never I'm never anybody's first thought when it comes to doing that kind of stuff. Like I thought somebody would be calling me when they were going to do those Lockjaw comics.
Yeah.
I never got a phone call. Creeper I've never done. I really want to do. I'm a big fan of Ditko characters, so anything that he's had a hand in creating. So Ditko question any of those characters. I'll even do what's his face, Judo Master. Or what? It's hard to say. There's tons of them.
Well, let's just say Paste Pot Pete, and then
Yep, Paste Pot Pete. Paste Pot Pete was actually in one of the first comics that I remember really loving. It was like a Fantastic Four comic where he was breaking into the Baxter building. And the Frightful Four were taking over the Baxter building. The Trapster. I was like, wait a minute, is he the Trapster or Paste Pot Pete? He can't have two names. That's what I remember thinking when I was a little kid.
Well, springboarding off of that question, Dave Stokes.
I don't like him.
No, you're probably not going to like him after this question either. He wants to know if you had to choose between drawing a 3-issue arc of Alpha Flight or a 6-issue arc of Blue Beetle, what would you pick?
Blue Beetle. I don't want to draw a team comic. There's too many people.
I'm assuming that's why he said 3 issues instead of 6.
Yeah, that's true. That would be I'd still do more with Blue Beetle. I just like Blue Beetle more. I like Blue Beetle more than I like drawing teams of people. But I would love to. Yeah, Alpha Flight's one of those books I'd like to do. I loved Alpha Flight. I still make that joke that all my comics I draw are all traced from old issues of Alpha. Speaking of Blue Beetle and Alpha Flight, I have a real funny story about John Byrne commission I had.
Was it the Blue Beetle one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you know the story behind it?
I don't know if I ever heard the full story behind it. I just remember.
Okay.
It took a while to get, right?
Well, it took a while to get, but that's not unusual for commissions, especially from John Byrne. But here's the thing. I'll tell this story, and I've never told it publicly because I don't want it to look bad on John Byrne's part. But what it was is I got a commission from John Byrne, and he always, he said, you don't talk to John Byrne, you talk to his representative, and he requests what character you want. And I said, I want Blue Beetle jumping out of the bug. That's not very hard. And I got it back. It's amazing. But I want you, are you in front of a computer right now?
Yeah.
I want you to look up, let me see. I want you to look up, this is probably terrible radio, but I want you to look up John Byrne Blue Beetle. Let me see if it comes up. It's the first image that comes up.
Yeah, okay. I see it.
That's the commission that he did for me.
Yes, I remember that.
Okay. Now, I want you to look up Mike Norton Blue Beetle and see the first image that comes up.
I have a feeling I know what's going to happen.
It's a drawing that I did years and years and years ago, years before I got this commission. So what I think happened is that somebody like went online to get some reference for Blue Beetle and ended up drawing a very similar drawing.
Or maybe he's like, who's this Mike Norton guy? And he typed it up and he's like, what? I'm going to show him how it's done.
But that's the amazing thing. That's why this is such a cool story, is because I essentially have my commission is John Byrne telling me how to draw Blue Beetle.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
This isn't bad radio. It's interactive. People could have search along with us.
It is interactive, so people can search along with us. Yeah, I'm so glad it's the first thing that comes up, because that would have been.
It's kind of
really
hilarious.
Annoying.
They're both the first thing that comes up too.
Yeah. It's kind of because he's done John Byrne's done Blue Beetle, and I used to work on the book, so there's probably a lot of things that come up.
More questions. You had a lot of questions today from Twitter.
Wow.
Another former guest and friend, Dave Jordan, asks you, Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or Balboa? Which one's the best?
Balboa is really good. I will always go with 3 because it has Mr. T in it, and I watched it the most when I was a kid.
And then sub question, is Creed the second best Rocky movie?
I haven't seen Creed or Creed 2.
Oh, you have not?
I have not. It's a shameful thing on my part.
I highly recommend that. And in that vein,
I know. I've heard they're great.
And in that vein, whenever there's favorite movie Twitter things going around, I always bring up this movie, but I can't recommend it enough. In the vein of Rocky, I recommend Warrior.
I've seen Warrior. Warrior's great.
Okay.
Yeah, Warrior's great.
So there we go, Dave. Hope you're happy with those answers. John Westhoff asks, is there any movie so bad that you won't even talk about it on Facebook?
Probably not. In fact, I watched a movie tonight called One-Eyed Monster, which is about Ron Jeremy being possessed by aliens and his penis attacking and killing a cabin full of porn makers over a weekend, and they have to try and kill his penis.
Well, there you go, John. Thanks for thanks for asking that question. Drummers, what do you expect? All right. Gavin Guidry, I'm sorry.
Guidry.
Yeah, I corrected myself because he put his name phonetically, so I've been mispronouncing it in my brain for like over a year now. He wants to know how much do you miss him?
I don't miss him because I can still hear his loud ass voice all the way in Louisiana.
And then finally, saving the best for last, Mr. Sean Kelly McKeever asks, what is love? Or alternatively, what time is love?
Love was at 6:45 p.m. He missed it. He missed love time. So he has to wait till tomorrow's allotted love time.
Well, and that concludes questions from Twitter, which were a lot. Thank you, everybody who sent something in. So, as I've taken up a lot of your time, so I would just like to wrap up with asking the 3 important questions for the podcast. Comics, coffee, metal. What's doing it for you lately?
Oh, geez. Comics. I know there's an answer. I'm really into the last comic that I really think it just ended, didn't it? Paper Girls?
Yeah, it just ended. I remember I have the first 2 trades, and
I
need to catch up to it. It's just, it's Cliff Chang and Brian K. Vaughan. It's like, I know it's going to be amazing. I don't,
There are a couple of writers that have never written anything that I don't like, and Brian's one of them. So Paper Girls is kind of blown me away, and now I'm kind of glad that it's over so that I can just catch up all up on it. That's kind of like the thing that's really gotten my thing going. I just I've been reading. I just read this graphic novel that my studio mate Jim Terry wrote and drew, and it's kind of amazing too. But that won't be out for a long time. It's called Come Home Indio. It's kind of an autobiography.
Yeah, I've seen him posting about that. It looks really interesting.
But that's kind of cool. What else? It's hard to say because I keep seeing friends of mine put up stuff and I don't know what it's from, but the artwork looks amazing. So that, I mean, let's just say Paper Girls. What's the other thing? Coffee.
Yeah,
metal?
what kind of coffee you digging these days?
I have an instant Nespresso thing because I saw Eric Powell and his girlfriend had one when I stayed with them. And I was like, that's amazing. Plus you can recycle the pods that come in it. So I was like, that's awesome.
So
it's an espresso. It's actually an espresso machine.
Okay.
So I guess so coffee, I'm into espresso.
Okay.
Espresso.
I guess that's why we haven't getting any Keurig updates from your
my evil Keurig. My evil Keurig hasn't been talking. He didn't even say anything when I was watching all those HP Lovecraft.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to make jokes. People really don't. It's kind of an obscure premise that your coffee maker is possessed by an elder demon. So I don't think people were really into it.
The last question's metal. I know you're not a huge metal guy, but
I'm not. Well, I'm not a metal guy the way people I think actually define metal. Like when I think of metal, I'm still in Jackson, Tennessee in 1989 metal.
Well, I talk a lot about on the show how metal is kind of like such a huge genre. It's almost like an entire ecosystem in itself because you have all these subgenres. So
yes, metal wise, a band that's not new but I'm new to is Ghost.
Okay.
And I've really got into them mostly because I'm into for one thing, the songs are amazing. The songs are very musical and melodic, and they're basically pop songs.
Yeah.
And I really think the shtick is hilarious. I think it's amazing. It's so funny, but at the same time, it's like I don't think I would feel comfortable wearing a Ghost t-shirt because I still think there are people that would think I'm some kind of weirdo. It's like I really like this band, but I don't feel like I can wear a t-shirt because I don't think I'm not that cool, I guess,
Well, there's definitely people in the metal community who think Ghost is not metal, even though
yes, well, like I said,
yeah,
I'm still there's that it does harken back to that 89 sort of metal that I'm in.
Yeah, and most of these guys are the guys who are like, oh, it's all, deicide or cattle decapitation and F everything else. And
yeah, it's hard for me to get into it because most of that stuff's all about super technical rhythms and techniques, which for me, it's kind of almost a chore to listen to.
No, totally.
It's kind of hard to figure out. And if it doesn't have like a groove, like if I can't if it's not like have some sort of funkiness to it, I'm not really gonna vibe with it. And I don't like the yelling vocals. I just don't like that.
So I'm never gonna get you into Gojira, am I?
I tried Gojira.
I know. I heard you tried it, and
I tried. You know why I tried Gojira is because I saw the guitar that the guy was like, and I was like, well, this guy must know what he's talking about. And then I listened to it, and I was like, well, he certainly knows how to play guitar. I wish it was a song that I like.
Well, do you recall which album you checked out, or?
I don't know. Does iTunes keep track of it?
Only if you add it to your library, I think.
No, I didn't do
if
that.
it
I
doesn't seem
prob-
familiar, I would suggest their most recent album from 2016, Magma. That's like the most
Mag,
accessible album. There's songs
I'm
like
writing that down.
Silvera, Stranded. Those have the most, I guess, diversity with the vocals. Since you're not a
Would
future,
you say they're a favorite of yours?
yeah, they kind of like really leapfrog into like one of my top 3 bands of all time over the past few years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it is.
Oh wow.
Well, I've heard of them for years and years, and I never really got into the guttural, growly vocals until recent years. Like the hardest I would have a few bands I would listen to, but I would really like, you know, it'd be sparingly. And for some reason, when this album came out, it just really latched onto me. Then everything else behind it just kind of made more sense to me.
Yeah.
And I just kind of like, and also I ended up watching. They posted a live concert from this overseas festival called Bloodstock. And
Where what was it in one of the Nordic
I
countries?
think so.
Yeah,
I think
of course it
I
was.
think it might have been not Poland. That was a different one. But it's such a like, great performance because it's just these 4 guys on stage. Yeah, there's some pyro, but it's just 4 guys just kicking ass on this stage, and
Yeah.
it's just really connected with me. And their drummer is amazing. He is.
Yeah. I'll give them a second listen.
I mean, they might not
Like
be.
I
Yeah,
said,
they
if-
might not be your thing because there's definitely a lot of the growly vocals in there. But I think
if there's not something I can latch onto, I mean, it's really kind of hard to connect with a song, and a lot of the time, like vocals is the thing that brings you
Yeah.
in. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Nope.
I'll try it again.
But,
I'll try it tomorrow.
But yeah, there's tons of like just like I listen to all kinds of metal. It's just kind of awesome. Like just you can listen to stuff like Gojira, or there's stuff like this band Amaranth, which is almost
Amaranth, I've heard of them.
they're almost dancey.
I know of all these names from Steve Seeley's T-shirts.
they're like this almost electro groove metal, kind of almost dancey.
For real.
But they also have
Okay.
female vocals, male vocals, and then
Okay.
scream vocals. But it's more
All right, I'm already liking it.
but it's more percussive. They're really good. Their recent album Helix is really good.
Helix.
Yeah, they've had different male vocals throughout the years, but they're all interchangeable really.
Okay.
And then I like Ghost. I definitely think they're metal. I think like Cerise, the riff from that is like one of the heaviest riffs.
Oh my God, that song is so good, and that video is so good.
And then the other song from that, I think it's from that album, from the Pendulum to the Pit. That's like another awesome song. Some of their songs from me are like, yeah, okay, I get it, you're evil. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that like that's the barrier to entry with them.
Yeah.
Actually, for me, is like I'm not going to pretend that I worship the devil because you guys don't either. I mean, it's kind of silly. But here's the thing: if I go down south and go to Thanksgiving with my ghost shirt on, everybody's going to be like, "Well, that dude, he worships the devil," and it's like that's a stupid thing to think about in 2020. I mean, 2020. You know. So I mean, but it is one of those things where it's just like, okay, guys, it's silly, but that's the point.
And then this metal is just so.
That's the problem. That's the problem with metal is that so many people take it so seriously, right?
And
maybe that's why everybody's giving them crap.
I'm part of a few metal groups on Facebook, and thankfully, like so many people are like, well, Anthony Johnson well.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm a huge fan of his podcast, Thrash It Out. So much so that I was when he was soliciting people, I actually played guitar on the intro song for the podcast that he was putting together, because he wrote a song for it, and then he like solicited fans like, hey, you guys want to play the parts to it? So we're working on that. But the Facebook group there is really like awesome. Him and Brian Latendra is his podcast partner. They
Brian is a very open-minded guy too.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no, that's the thing that
and
yeah,
Anthony's always been kind of on the edge of.
and I think they've just cultivated this huge community where people can post about, they can post like a new, people be excited about a new like hair metal type thing, and people are like, yeah, cool. Other people are like, oh, check out this, deathcore, whatever core thing, and people are like, oh, cool, So,
yeah, that doesn't always happen.
if you define the metal community by the comment sections from Blabbermouth or Metal Injection or whatever, their posts from those websites, then yeah, it's terrible, terrible hellscape.
Oh yeah, imagine that, fans that hate things. I can't.
But then again, I guess I'm kind of immune to it because I'm just used to comic fans.
Well, it's everybody
because
fan is short for fanatic.
And also just like general YouTube comments, because if you there's this really amazing YouTube guitarist called Sarah Longfield, and she did have you heard of the YouTube guitar guy Jared Dines?
I have, but I don't know much about him.
He comes out, if like you see him, you're like, oh, this guy's like a complete douche, but he actually comes across like as a generally like decent guy. He does a lot of charity stuff and things like that.
Sarah who?
Sarah Longfield. He does this series called Shred Wars, where he basically you shred back and forth or whatever. And she did and she just like kind of like nailed it or whatever. But all the for the longest time, the majority of the comments were all the guys like, whatever, her tone was crap. It's like, you can't do like a third of what she was doing, but like you had to like neg on her for some reason.
Of course.
So,
sure.
Just like comics.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. Somebody takes the fun out of everything.
But I'm all that's the thing about metal. And of course with comics, like we both know quite a few people who listen to metal and comics, and they're always posting about new bands, and Brian Chirilla is always sending me new stuff, and
oh yeah, Chirilla, I mean he lives it. As soon as the kids go to sleep, well, this. As soon as the kids go to sleep, he lives it.
I think as the kids are getting older,
I'm surprised you haven't had him on the. What's that?
Oh, no, he's got the open invite. We're just, I'm just waiting for him to say, let's go. He's one of the first people I contacted because I'm like, you're like one of the most like hardcore metal dudes I know, and
he's probably like, oh, you don't want me on.
No comment. I love Brian. Brian's great, but
I love Brian. I think he is one of the most amazing creative people. We were going to make a comic together, but I wasn't that great a writer, and I don't think I was writing the right stuff for him. And he has these amazing ideas that he is underrated.
Yeah, vastly. And he's been texting me a lot because he just got the iPad as well, and he's getting back into recording music himself, and he's asking me all these questions. So, and I'm trying to like,
I sense a super group.
Yeah. Well, I did have this one dream of this like putting together like an EP of just having different comic people just contribute parts.
That's a great idea. I think that'd be kind of
I'm
cool.
like, it'd be cool to do this because there's plenty of singers. We can get, Patrick Brower, we can get Anthony Johnston, we can get a few other people, and
I will play the triangle. Give me a moment where I play. Or what's the thing with that looks like a fish that you break the thing across?
I have no idea. Marimba? No.
I want to do that. I'm gonna do that.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
All right.
Yeah, I said the pipe dream of doing something like that, and like, let's just do it for the Hero Initiative or something, and just have it like be this fun thing. But that requires time, and really, who has that these days?
Well, a lot more people do right now. Now's the time to strike.
Well, I'll clarify. I don't have that these days.
You don't have that.
And any other creators with children or any other demands on their time, really. But if you like something that's like you would consider like 1989 metal, that's still metal.
I think so, but like I have a very relaxed sense of cool now. Like if somebody looks down on stuff, I was actually talking to Crank about this very thing today. If somebody looks down on something, I really don't have much time for
I
it.
was actually
And
listening
when
to that
I
episode
do it,
earlier.
yeah, I will fake look down on stuff.
Mhm.
Like I will make fun of people for their taste and stuff, but I never for a second actually believe it when I say that
Yeah.
stuff. Cause it's like, man, whatever you like, it's obviously working. So who the fuck am I to like tell somebody that what they're doing is wrong?
Yeah. Completely. Okay. Well, I think I've taken up enough of your time. I really appreciate.
I gotta go to bed,
Yes, you do.
man.
You're up way past your bedtime, Mr. Norton, and you need to get to bed to
You
wake
go
up
to
and make those
sleep.
comics. So.
I usually watch my TikToks before I go to bed.
Oh, okay then. Well, that said, thank you very much for coming on.
Sure, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for listening to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast.